is going to be Vikings Chargers. We just kind of touched on that. The Chargers are actually the underdogs here by 1.5 points. So Vikings are favored by 1.5. What do you think about this one?
Well, look, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I am thinking Chargers win this game because of the fact that I just think they have the better team. But man, can they not close? If they can't win this game and close out games, the season for them is going to slip away. And I do think they're the better complete team. I like what Justin Herbert's doing. I'm not sold on everything specifically with the Vikings on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
I think they're a very solid team, but I just feel like the Chargers are the better one. So that I lean to the Chargers to find a way to win.
I'm taking the Vikings on this one. The Chargers are going to be in Minnesota. I just don't know. Talent-wise, look, on paper, the Chargers are the better team talent-wise. But as we've seen over the last 2 weeks, and even in the end of last year, the play calling has been absolutely atrocious. I think that Kirk Cousins and the Vikings can get on this. It's a flip-flop game. Could go either way. I'm going to take home field advantage, and I think that's why they're favored in the first place by 1.5 points. So I'm taking Vikings on that one. Next one is going to be Ravens Colts. We're going to be covering this one later in the show, but Ravens Colts, what do you got on this one?
It's got to be Baltimore. Now I think the number is 8.5 for the spread.
Yeah.
Don't know. I don't know how I feel about it on the big number, but I do feel that the Ravens, especially Anthony Richardson dealing with his concussion, what's going to happen there? Baltimore's at home. I feel like all the momentum's there, but I do think the Colts could have put up a little bit better of a fight coming off a tough divisional game in Cincy, and looking ahead, Baltimore has 2 tough divisional games. So I think Ravens win, but could be closer for comfort.
I think that Ravens win too, and I agree with you on the spread there. The one thing that I thought was interesting, and granted, we have a small sample size, it's just the first 2 weeks, but yards allowed. The Colts defense, I think that we don't know fully exactly what they're capable of, but there's been some impressive numbers here. The first 2 games they played, Houston and Jacksonville, they've haven't allowed more than 22 points. We'll see if the Ravens can score more than that this week, which they should, but they've allowed total 312 yards and 312 passing yards and 78.5 rushing yards is what they've allowed over the last 2 weeks. That's pretty impressive, no matter how you shake it, no matter what teams they're facing. So this isn't going to be a walk in the park, even though it should be a convincing win, I would think, by the Ravens. Lions, Falcons. The Lions are favored by 3 points. It's going to be Atlanta and Detroit. They're going to be playing the 1:00 game. Total points on that one is going to be 46.5.
Sounds about right. And contrasting styles here, by the way, as far as the Lions most likely are going to be without David Montgomery. And so Jared Goff has been airing it out, and Amon-Ra St. Brown is probably going to be questionable to play, their top wide receiver. Then you have the Falcons that all they want to do is really run the football, give the ball to Bijan Robinson, give the ball to Tyler Algier. I sneaky think this is going to be close, so I'm actually leaning Falcons.
It's not, I mean, it's tough. They're only favored by 3.
Let me put it this way. I think the Falcons cover, Lions win the game. That's where I'm going to go with it. And where the biggest battle is going to be, Detroit has been extremely tough against the run the first 2 games. So that's where that cat and mouse game is going to be. Falcons' strength versus the Lions' strength of their defensive line. Who wins it will ultimately win the game.
Agreed. And as you had mentioned, Detroit is stingy against the run. I'm taking Detroit on this one. I think it's going to be actually a pretty convincing win for those. There's just a lot of mismatches there, right? So I don't think that Jared Goff is going to blow the game in the last quarter, much like we saw from the Packers. That's going to be something to watch for. But I think that Lions win on this one pretty convincingly, even though that they're only favored by 3. Texans, Jags, and the spread there is 8.5. So Jaguars are favored by 8.5 points. I think that's a bit much, Ryan. I'm not saying that the Texans aren't this standout team, but we watched them firsthand when we were at the Ravens game together, and they're not that bad of a team. I think that there's a lot of bright spots here, and the Jaguars have yet to really have proven themselves as far as getting their act together. And what I mean by that is that they didn't have a stellar performance against the Chiefs. Now, granted, we talked about how the Chiefs defense is a different defense than what we've seen from the Chiefs in the past. But even with the Ravens, I'm sorry, even with the Colts, they didn't really like have a convincing win, in my opinion, against the Colts either. So I don't think, it's a division game. 8.5 points just seems like an awful lot as far as the spread's concerned. I do think the Jaguars come away with this one, but I think it's closer than people might think.
Yeah, divisional games change everything. The biggest question is, can the Texans offensive line protect CJ Stroud? Because I'll tell you what, he looks like a guy that is a franchise quarterback through the first 2 weeks. Yes, they had to air it out a lot the last game against the Colts. They're playing from behind, but he's throwing with anticipation. He has a young receiving core, and Nico Collins now has really started to emerge as their top threat on offense. And CJ Stroud is looking comfortable. But if they struggle to run the football and they can't protect him, and that's been the challenge so far this year. But divisional games are weird. I think that I'm with you. Jaguars win the game, but 8.5, 9 points might be a little bit too rich in this matchup.
KC and Chicago. We're going to get into a lot of the drama with Chicago later on in the show. This one, it seems to be a bit of a no-brainer. Chicago just cannot seem to get it together. Justin Fields just doesn't know what he's doing out there on the field. The Chiefs are favored by 12.5 points, 48.5 points total for total points. And I'm taking the points on this one. I think it's going to be a pretty dominating win for the Chiefs. Maybe we'll finally see that offense come to life this week.
This you know what? It could very well be the get right game for the Chiefs. So far for the Bears defense, they've allowed a lot of passing yards and a lot of success to Jordan Love and Baker Mayfield, the two opponents that they faced in the Bears and the Bucks in the first 2 weeks. Now you get the best quarterback in the NFL in Kansas City. Now I will say this, we're either going to see Justin Fields have a better game and maybe see some life, or it's going to be more of the same. It's nowhere in between here, and it's such a mess in Chicago. But Kansas City this seems like a get right game. I'm with you with KC. I think that they win, and they win comfortably.
Yeah. Next one is Saints Packers. This is going to be a really interesting game to watch. Nobody really knows who's going to win this game. The Packers are favored slightly by 1.5 points. I don't know who's going to take this one either. The Saints that are 2-0. You got the Packers who have had some challenges, but then also looked really good. They looked really good against the Bears. They did look good against the Falcons as well for 3 quarters. This one's a tough one. I will say that the way that I watched the Saints play against the Panthers was not really a confidence booster for me. So I'm going to take the Packers on this one. Yeah, I think could be very much a toss up, but I'm going to take the Packers regardless.
I love what the Packers and Jordan Love have, and I'm a big believer. This is his toughest test as far as facing this defense. The Saints defense is extremely challenging.
Yeah.
And they're able to bring pressure. They're able to have solid coverage, but also they are very tough against the run. So for a young quarterback like Jordan Love, and you can't have that run game per se, how can you adapt to it? And that's going to be a test. I'm actually leaning Saints in this one. I'm going to take the Saints because I do think Derek Carr, he's starting to figure things out. They didn't have, by no means has Derek Carr played great football so far in games, but I do like him being around, understanding what's going on. And I think if the Saints can continue to build off of what they've done, I think that they can edge it out because I like their defense where they are right now in their matchup against the Packers.
Next up, we have Commanders Bills. Bills are favored by 6.5 points. This is going to be the true test. Teams we've seen the Commanders go up against have not been, world-class teams. The Bills are. Last week, it looked as if Josh Allen figured it out, that what we saw from them on week 1 was not what we're used to seeing from the Bills. Last week, it was. I am going to take the Bills on this one outright. I think that it's going to be pretty convincing win. Total points here, 43.5.
To your point, the Commanders now, they're 2-0, but their 2 wins have been by combined 6 points. And now you got to face a team that is a AFC top contender, hopefully Super Bowl hopeful in Buffalo. I'm with you. I think that Buffalo should win this game, but if they don't, we're going to find out that the Commanders are definitely a team that people should reconsider because this is by far their toughest challenge. It's Sam Howell. How can he adapt now to this tough Buffalo defense? They have some great pieces. They're running the ball really well with Brian Robinson. If you can do that, it should be a closer game, but I have to see it to believe it.
Tennessee versus Cleveland. And this is going to be something that I think also is going to be a fun game to watch. Cleveland's defense has looked really good over the last 2 weeks. They played the Steelers and they played the Bengals. So they're finally getting out of the division this week, playing the Titans. Now, Titans came off of a tough loss last week against they came up with a tough game winning against the Chargers last week, but it was still a hard fought game. Can they bounce back and look even stronger this week? The one thing I will say is passing yards allowed over the last 2 weeks was 305 yards. Rushing yards allowed from the Titans was 65. Can Ford come in and make some noise after Chubb's season-ending injury? That's going to be the big question here. Browns are favored by 3.5 points. I'm going to take the Browns here.
All right. Well, hey, I just was realizing that I feel like I'm wearing a chain, by the way. Maybe I am, but
I'll teach you how to wear those things, man.
Yeah, we're still not there. You guys should have seen me try to put these puppies on last time, but here we go. My first dog pick of the week. I actually had some very good picks with dogs last week. Tennessee was one I took last week. I'm rolling with Tennessee again this week, Brad. And the reason why you just brought up Tennessee is very good against the run. They have Jeffrey Simmons, one of the best defensive players there. And the Titans know their identity, and they still have their workhorse back in Derrick Henry. I like the coaching staff and Mike Vrabel. This is going to be a challenge now with Cleveland. You don't have your stud Nick Chubb. How does the offense look, and how does it operate with Deshaun Watson not having his all-pro type of running back in the backfield? I trust the Titans in this one. Give me the Titans outright money line to win this game.
Cowboys and Cardinals. Cowboys are feeling it today. We had some breaking news from the Cowboys that Trayvon Diggs had a season-ending injury.
Yep, they believe he tore his ACL. Yep.
Yeah, so he is out. A huge part of the defense there. Obviously, Micah Parsons is an absolute force, but he can't do it all by himself. Trayvon Diggs is a huge loss for them. They are favored, though, still by 12.5 points. Cardinals are not going to win this game, even without Trayvon Diggs. I'm going to take the Cowboys in this one. 42.5 points. I'm going to take the points on that as well.
So you're taking the over on the points. I think the Cowboys defense is so loaded. It hurts that they lose Diggs, but they still have Micah Parsons, who can just go and do absolutely everything possible. He was even joking about maybe trying to get tight end reps, whatever it may be, but they roll. That team overall is built, and the Cardinals are not. So I like Dallas. I like them to win handedly. Yeah, we'll give it the over. We'll give it the over too. Why not? Points galore.
Steelers, Raiders, and this one, I hope it doesn't turn into like a suck bowl, because I really want to see a good game. This is a Sunday night game. The Raiders are 1-1. So are the Steelers. Interestingly, the Steelers have allowed 420 passing, or so 420 total yards. Passing yards allowed 227 and 193. This is going to be an interesting one. We're going to tear into this game in a little bit, but man, defense seems to be there. Offense is a whole other story as far as the Steelers are concerned. Raiders also still just questionable. Vegas doesn't know what to do here either. But the Raiders are favored by 2.5. I am going to take the Raiders on this one as well.
Yeah, the Steelers are such a different team, especially when they play at home and play against opponents from their own division at home.
Yeah,
I think the Raiders, this is a game that they have to win. They're at home. I'm with you. I think they find a way. We'll save it for later with the offenses, but give me Jimmy Garoppolo at the helm to pull out a victory in Vegas.
Yeah, the next one's going to be really quick. It's Dolphins. It's Broncos. Dolphins are favored. No shocker there. Dolphins walk away with this one. It should be an easy game for them. Walk in the park. The Broncos are just an absolute mess. I will say the rushing attack is pretty good. They've only allowed 91.5 yards through the first 2 games, but Raheem Mostert showed up against the Patriots, and I will say that you can argue that the Dolphins don't even need a run game right now because they're just throwing the ball, slinging the ball everywhere. So I think that it's pretty convincing win here for the Dolphins. They are favored by 6.5 points, though. That's it.
I think this might be Denver's last best shot. They're going to keep competing, but as far as keeping your season hopes alive, they might try to throw a punch and try to keep going here. But the Dolphins are the better team. They're the team with continuity and not this cloud of doubt hanging over them. Dolphins should win this game, but I do think that the Broncos are going to put up somewhat more of a fight than expected.
I mean, yeah, I guess Sean Payton at some point is going to get together with Russ Wilson, right? That's got to happen. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, and then we have an AFC East matchup between the Jets and the Patriots. Patriots, it feels like a must-win game. I mean, last week certainly felt like that way, and it feels even more like that this week. Can you imagine an 0-3 Patriots, Ryan? Patriots have allowed only 273 passing yards, and that's after facing the Dolphins.
I think the Pats win this game. I think it's either Zach Wilson gets over his woes against the Patriots, but it's just so unthinkable that the Patriots could fall to 0-3, and especially with how their defense is constructed. Give me the Pats in this one. I think it's going to be an ugly game, though, for both teams.
Yeah, I don't imagine this one's going to be a fun one to watch. Up next, we got the Seahawks and Panthers. Panthers really didn't do much, although there were some bright spots with Bryce Young. I don't know what to think of him yet. I don't know if I have.
Well, and also Bryce Young is out for this game. He just got announced that more than likely he's going to be ruled out for this game. So we're not going to even get to see him. We're not going to even get to see him. So Andy Dalton will start, which that's a veteran quarterback, but I think we're going the same way here. It's safe to say we feel it's Seahawks at home.
Yeah, Seahawks are favored by 6.5. No doubt about it in my mind that the Seahawks walk away with this one.
I'm with you. I think that 6.5, they should win by a score. I think the Panthers have a solid defense, but there's too many good parts of Seattle where I don't think they drop a second home game to start the season.